Hi beautiful ladies, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is specifically for the loners. I want to speak specifically to those who are currently experiencing isolation, or you feel as if you've kind of walked the lonely path and maybe you think it's unfair, maybe you're uncertain as to why this has happened to you. You know, you see other people around you, they're able to make friends maybe a lot more easier than you are, despite you being a good friend. Maybe you notice that people are not willing to put in as much effort into a relationship as much as you are, and it makes you feel sad. It makes you feel as if you don't have any worth, or there's something lacking in you that would cause people to not see you as valuable enough to put in effort to make the relationship with you work. And so I'm here to offer you some encouragement and to let you know that isolation and being a loner is not always a bad thing. In fact, if you find yourself in this situation, and I'm speaking to those who, for the most part, no one is perfect, but if you know that you haven't done anything to offend anybody, you know that you're not a tyrant, you're not a toxic person, I'm speaking to those individuals. If you know that you are toxic, okay, you have behaviors and patterns that would turn off any reasonable person, you take forever to text back, your communication skills suck, you're easily offended, then this is not for you. Okay, honey, you are lonely because you need to do the inner work to become a better person. But for those people who do all these things and you're still not getting the results or the outcome that you were hoping for, I'm here to let you know again to embrace the isolation, because maybe this is an invitation from up above to encourage you to find yourself. And you're being encouraged to find yourself for a very specific reason. Maybe you've been depressed for the past 10 years and you've been trying to find a way out and you have no idea how to get out. This isolation that you find yourself in is an opportunity for you to unlearn the harmful practices that you've picked up along the way that have led you down this path. And that is broad for a reason, because sometimes we find ourselves, and I'm using depression just as an example off the top of my head, but sometimes we find ourselves in a depression because we're around the wrong people. We've been around the wrong environment for years on years and years and years and years. And because we're not receiving the type of energy that we need to sustain us and to help us grow, maybe it's not even toxic energy per se, but you're just simply in a space that does not align with your values and the skills and where you need to be at in life, you're not going to feel fulfilled and you're going to feel depleted. So removing yourself from that environment will remove any distractions and blockages that would prevent you from being able to see reality and the truth of where you need to be, and will then give you the space, energetically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever, to discover and come up with a game plan, and also meet people who can help you along the way to get you to where you need to be. Okay, and some of you fall into unhealthy relationships and you don't know who you are because you are afraid of being alone, and you latch on to whoever is close and who sticks around. And this is especially for people who have dealt with rejection your whole life. Maybe you were the kid who was always picked last for school activities. Maybe you were kind of the black sheep of the family. Maybe people kind of just invited you to things last minute, not because, you know, you were top of their mind, but I guess it was just convenient to extend the invitation in that time. And so when you've kind of always been the one who has come last, it is very easy for you to latch on to anything or anyone who has any semblance that they could be a friend to you. Having company, again, I speak about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but it is one of those things that we need to help build our self-esteem and self-actualization, which then influences our sense of self and our sense of feeling worthy as a human being. So I totally get it. It is a human need to have close connections and relationships. But if you are coming from a place of desperation, you are only going to attract bottom feeder energy rather than cream of the crop type of energy, because you are desperate and so you're willing to take anything that is thrown at you. And oftentimes, desperate energy repels good, wholesome energy and attracts people who just want to take advantage of you, or people who are also desperate. And then you guys kind of have like a superficial codependent relationship for a short period of time. And then when one of you gets bored, it's like, okay, I'm still not fulfilled because I haven't addressed the root issues that I'm dealing with. And so I'm going to move on to the next thing that is going to give me a quick fix of dopamine. Being desperate, people pleasing, being hungry for people's approval, that sort of fear of missing out of other people, that leads to people pleasing. It leads to codependency and trauma bonding because, again, you're not forming relationships based on shared values and interests from a place of growth, but you're building that relationship off of convenience, all right? And that convenience could be proximity. Maybe you go to school with this person, and so, they're kind of in your space every day because you guys go to the same classes. And also kind of choosing those who choose you rather than you choosing for yourself, choosing the type of people that you want in your life based on sort of the values that you have set for yourself, that you identify will contribute to your overall well-being. I found myself strongly pursuing relationships in university, but primarily past university. A lot of these relationships would fail, and I would find myself being frustrated because they would end for no reason. People would say like, oh, Black Exotical, you're a good friend, and they would call me their best friend and, say that they were so thankful to have me. But then the relationship would fade away with me ending up reaching out, but I wouldn't get any reciprocation. So pretty much if I was the one who kept the relationship afloat, and if I stopped reaching out, then the relationship would fizzle away. And I remember specifically when I had this one friend when I used to go to this one church. The church itself wasn't toxic, but this one individual, me and her were friends, and then I guess by extension, we were friends with her husband. Found myself in a relationship where I was constantly pursuing her. And she would kind of say like, oh, I'm going through these things, I'm going through things, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, who isn't? But I remember one time, this was during the pandemic, 2020 or maybe 2021, like we were in the thick of things. And I remember I had reactivated an old Instagram account that I had years ago. And, I was updating my profile picture and I noticed that I lost 3 followers. So I was like, okay, I wonder who these are. So when I looked, I noticed that she had unfriended me or unfollowed me, and so did her husband and her husband's business profile. And immediately I knew, and I was like, I know why you did this. Because years prior to that, it was me who would be the one to reach out. I would call her, I would leave voice messages, and she wouldn't respond. And I guess she realized, once I realized my worth, and I was like, forget it, like I'm not chasing you. You never reciprocate. And I totally get, as adults, we're busy, we both have careers, and she had a young family. She was a couple years married, and then she had a child a couple years after that. So I totally get her being busy, but I would offer to like come and visit her and the baby, and only one time did she agree. And other times she'd be like, oh no, I'm busy, or I'll call you back. Or if I called her, like she would sound super annoyed, like, why are you bothering me? And it's not like I was blowing up her phone either, but I thought that we were friends, based on what she had said. I thought that that is what friends are supposed to do, check up on each other. And so I was like, you know what? I realized my worth, and so I just let things fizzle away. And I guess she realized that I wasn't chasing and willing to kiss her ass anymore. And so I guess she must have discussed that with her husband. And when I came back on Instagram, their response was to unfollow me. And again, this was during the height of the pandemic. So instead of them saying, okay, I haven't heard from her in a while, we're in trying times, like, let me be a good friend and be like, hey, like, I haven't heard from you in a while. Are you okay? You and your family? I know that these are tough times. People are stocking up on toilet paper and not leaving any for the rest. Like, are you guys good? I didn't get any of that. I was met with the, well, if you're not willing to chase me and people please and do whatever I want, then I guess that we're not going to be friends, because the type of friendship that I'm looking for is one of servitude, one where, I do all the running around and playing games, and then I have someone who is subservient and willing to audition and jump through hoops in order to get my approval. And the new and improved Black Exotical was like, nah. The old Black Exotical, maybe from like 2010, would have chased and chased and chased and would have second guessed herself and been like, oh, maybe I'm not doing enough. Maybe she's going through something. And the new Black Exotical realized at that time that no, unfortunately, that's not good enough. We all have things that we go through, but that's what friends are for. Needless to say, that relationship ended, and I was so glad that I did, because at that turning point, that taught me the importance of knowing my worth and not people pleasing or auditioning for anybody's approval. Nobody's perfect, and we go through highs and lows in life, but if someone cannot even show up for you the same way that they expect for you to show up for them, that is an uneven, unequally yoked relationship. And if you choose to pursue something like that, you're going to find yourself in a situation where you are having to bend over backwards to get a sliver of that person's attention without even getting a fraction of that sliver reciprocated. And you are worth so much more than that. So, through that time and just other relationship breakdowns where I said, forget it, like I'm not chasing after or bending myself to try to fit into a space where I don't belong, that was really the pinnacle of isolation for me. And I had entered isolation before that, where things were kind of slowly falling by the wayside. But like 2021 was like that really, 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 really big height of that for me. Like 2021 was my wilderness season where I went through some things all at once. But all of those negative experiences, honest to God, refined me to have much better outcomes in my career, relationships, my fitness, my physical appearance. Oftentimes we are forced into isolation because, number one, we had no choice because, no one was around or no one was willing to stick around. Or number two, you just simply become too tired of trying. And so when you're in this period of isolation, you start to learn things about yourself that you hadn't previously realized. And for me, this is where my identity started to take shape. This is where I learned about my boundaries. This is where I really learned about my likes and my dislikes. This is what I learned about my worth, essentially, and what I was deserving of, not just because I think so highly of myself, but because I'm simply a human being who deserves respect, a human being who has self-respect. And so for many of you, you're going through isolation. Sometimes that's a gift from God. It's a gift from God for you to start to stop living as a shell of yourself, as a skeleton of yourself, as a prototype of yourself, and to start embracing and exploring the true essence of who you are. And when that happens, beautiful things can be born from that. And it can, honest to God, suck when you're alone and you see everyone going on girls' trips, or you see people are getting engaged and you're not, or people starting families, businesses, whatever, or maybe you are part of a friend group and now you're the only one who's kind of dropped out and everyone else is going through life without you. It sucks, but honestly, this is necessary for your growth. Otherwise, I'm speaking from experience as well, I'd probably still be the same person that I was, less confident, people-pleasing, super anxious and depressed, if I did not go through those trials and if I did not learn from those trials. And that's the key. So many people find themselves in isolation. They find themselves going through hardship, tough times, and they kind of just adopt this defeatist mentality and they stay in that. Okay. And again, I'm offering grace to y'all because I needed grace for myself, where you feel down in the dumps and you want to feel bad for yourself. Okay. Take the time to feel bad for yourself for maybe like a month max. And then it's time to get over it. If you are still alive and well, feel bad about yourself, about the situation. Some people may need a little bit longer depending on what they're going through, the severity of the situation. But the point that I'm trying to make is that do not stay there. Do not stay stuck in that wilderness, because then you're going to find yourself going in circles and circles and circles and circles. And then 5, 10, 20 years later, you look back and you say, wow, I really wasted time being down in the dumps when I could have used that as an opportunity to grow and to learn from this. And when you adopt this growth mentality of, okay, this sucks, but what am I supposed to learn from this situation? And obviously it's easier said than done. But when you face new trials in the future, because that's unfortunately what life offers a lot of positive, great, amazing experiences, and it also offers a lot of trials. And sometimes those trials are not to refine you either. Sometimes those trials come about because other people around us suck. And you unfortunately had to be the byproduct of that, the recipient of their suckiness. But when you go through previous trials and you overcome that and you don't allow yourself to stay in this rough, dark space, you're more equipped, you're more mature, you have the mental clarity to say, okay, I've been here before, I know what to do. This is where I should go. Or even if you don't know where to go, at least you have the mental capacity, the mental strength to be like, I'm not going to allow this to break me. And now is where I call in reinforcements and I ask for help because I don't know where to go. Memberships are now live on this channel. Click the link in the description box to sign up to receive access to exclusive content and perks. And that is what makes a difference. That is what differentiates those who are successful from those who are the shoulda, coulda, woulda crew. The people who were like, well, the haters who always hate on those who are successful and who say, oh, well, I bet that person came from a wealthy family and that's why they have a successful business. Or that girl, she probably had things handed to her and she uses her pretty privilege. She looks like she's never gone through a trial a day in her life. Not realizing that life probably kicked that girl's ass 2 years ago. But instead of her sitting there and allowing that defeatist mentality to eat her alive, she said, I'm going to turn this into a situation where I can become stronger. I'm going to make lemonade out of these lemons. Sometimes isolation and hardship is a rite of passage that you must go through, especially if you have a divine calling on your life. And if you listen to the stories of any successful person, they all have one thing in common, and that's that they all went through isolation and hardship and had to pass through these lonely periods in order to become successful. And you can look up Jack Ma from Alibaba. He's the creator of Alibaba. He couldn't even get a job at KFC. Okay, and now he owns $1 billion corporation that is a parent company of AliExpress. Everybody uses AliExpress now. That generates like millions a day. You can read Oprah Winfrey's story and what she went through, being born and raised in poverty, losing her child at 14 years old. Yeah, she got pregnant. She was a teen mom, and unfortunately her baby passed, and that was traumatizing. Sam Walton of Walmart. Sam Walton was dead broke. You know, he grew up on a farm. He didn't have any money. There were a lot of times in the early days of Walmart where he had to start his business all over again because, you know, he lost the lease to one of the properties that he was renting out to run Walmart, and that was shut down. So he had to start all over again. He had to borrow money from family. Like, all of these people went through it. And some of the things that some of these people went through could honestly break the average person. But what set them apart from the average person is that they did not give up. Maybe some of them had a period where they had to process the real emotions of being depressed, and that's okay. I'm not saying don't ever be depressed or feel worried or anxious, because you're a human being, you're not a robot. So it's natural to feel this way. But at some point you need to get up. If you do not want to stay in the wilderness, then you need to get up in order to move forward. And that's what each of these individuals did. And I really encourage you to read Sam Walton's book. He has a book about how he started and created Walmart. This will give you some well-needed motivation to get through your dark period, especially if you're depressed, or maybe you yourself are a business owner and your business is on the rocks. Listen to other people who have gone through similar situations like you, and not your mom and your dad or your pastor or whoever, because while these people around you may have good intentions for you and they may give you advice like, hey, maybe you should go back to your 9 to 5 and hang it up, or maybe you should not pursue that promotion, or maybe you should give up on that relationship because it's a bit tough right now. They're telling you these things not always because they have bad intention and they want to see you, they think that you're undeserving and they want to see you give up and live a life like the rest of you guys, but because they simply don't want to see you suffer anymore. And so they're telling the person who they love to say, hey, like, just park it here for your own safety and your own well-being because I care for you and I don't want to see you suffer. But sometimes that's not the messaging that we need to hear. Sometimes we need to say, okay, you know what, thanks mom and dad and whoever for your support, I guess, and your well-intended advice, but you need to hear from people who have gone through exactly what you're going through. And so again, if it's business issues, pick up a book from someone whose business flopped. Or just, if you don't even know, just Google successful business people who faced hardship. And Google will give you a nice long list of all those people. And you just do some research on them. It'll make you feel good in the moment to be like, okay, I'm not alone. If that person can achieve great things, so can I. And maybe you won't achieve the level of greatness that that person achieved, and it doesn't matter. You don't have to. We all have different levels that we are intended to achieve in life, but it gives you perspective. It gives you that motivation that you need to move forward, especially if you don't have a support system of other people, like-minded individuals who have gone through what you've gone through and they can coach you through it. And sometimes being isolated is the only way that we can hear God's voice and get divine insight into the direction that we need to go. When you're isolated, you won't be distracted by people's opinions. Okay, you won't be looking for advice from anyone who would listen. That's something that I used to do, honestly. I would just trauma dump on people, on anyone who was willing to listen. And honestly, that was a turnoff. For strong, good-intended people, trauma dumping is a great way to push people away from you. And doesn't mean that they don't want to help you, but it's like, if you're the basket case who's always going through something, you never have any victories. Unfortunately, people only want to be around winners. They only want to be around people who are doing well, or at the very least, they want to be around go-getters. They want to be around people who have a growth mindset. And it's like, okay, if you're always like trauma dumping on me, or you're asking me for advice and I really have no idea how to help you, it's like you're more of a liability than an asset, and I don't really want to have that around me. You're gonna start to push yourself even deeper into isolation because you're pushing away good people who understand the importance of protecting their energy. So isolation honestly will force you to be self-reliant and to trust yourself, which will then build confidence and it'll refine your decision-making skills. It'll teach you to be resourceful and to look for an answer where there is no answer. It'll also boost creativity because you're then forced to be resourceful again, which can lead to pertinent business ideas or even ideas on how to thrive in your career, your relationship, whatever it may be. And I'll leave you with this. If you're at a place where you're not getting answers or support from those around you who you think should be able to help you, again, like a professor, teacher, pastor, parent, it's because those individuals are not meant to have the answer for you. And isolation, for those who are wondering, doesn't mean that you have to cut off everybody. It just means that you choose to not trauma dump or overshare certain situations, and you choose to take ownership and try to find the answers on your own. Those individuals in your life, they may have played a pivotal role in getting you to where you are now in your life, but they are limited in the knowledge that is specific to your life. So take this as a sign to start a journey of self-discovery, and the answers will come to you. Do you ever find yourself in a situation where you're going through hard times and it's like desolate desert land, like nothing is working out for you, you're not getting clear direction or answer, and then when, through a turn of events, everything's going great, then that's when you feel like you're the most inspired, answers and opportunities and things are coming to you easily and quickly. It's because your energy has shifted. When you're no longer in this headspace of desperation, you no longer repel goodness and you start to attract that. So this isolation and slowing down and pretty much forcing yourself to calm your mind down will then open you up energetically to attract the good that you need in your life. You'll start to notice that not only are you attracting better quality men, maybe you're doing better in your career, you're now earning more money, you're more fit, and it's just like a snowball effect of good things happening to you. The same thing can happen when you are in a space where you're not energetically aligned, and like that's when bad things happen to you over and over and over and over again, that same snowball effect. So we want to shift from that negative snowball to the positive snowball. And sometimes the answers will come to you through a number of ways. It can come through dreams, random thoughts, social media content, like a random video may pop up and give you the answer that you've been kind of mulling over. People giving you very specific info that you know is useful to a specific situation that you're going through, and it probably would not make any sense in any other context. You know, opening yourself up and being prepared to receive the intel that you need is what comes out of isolation and choosing to go on a journey of self-discovery where you can find answers for yourself, and then you thereby become more self-sufficient, and then that's where the growth happens. Thank you so much for listening. Let me know what you think about this one down below in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.